Yes, indeed, folks. Listen to Blue Please here on cynicalbrit.com with myself, Total Biscuit. Yes, right, so... if you want to email in for the illusion of choice, you can do so. Email the Murloc at cynicalbrit.com. That is the Murloc at cynicalbrit.com. Get your topic for the last topic of the show, if you so wish. You can also email whatever the hell you like, quite frankly, to that. Just for those of you who are not aware, this will be a double bill. There's going to be another Blue Please tomorrow. It's going to be covering the dev chat. There was a Twitter chat going on tonight, slightly after my show. Deliberate, yes. Coincidence? I think not. Well, we're not going to let that one escape, oh no. So I'm going to be going on tomorrow at 9 p.m. British Standard Time, that's 4 p.m. Eastern. And I'll have a pre-show an hour before that. So you'll have your double Blue Please goodness. I call it 2 Please! Yes! Absolutely.
Not one, but 2 Joe Manga Worms.
Right. Indeed. Okay. So, I want to talk a little bit about something positive. Because there are positive things, sort of, mainly. Okay, maybe there isn't. Right, so there's one possibly, potentially, maybe positive thing that's going to be happening. So we're going to have a look at this one. Now, they've been putting out some previews of various zones for Cataclysm. And one of these particularly caught my interest. There's a couple of them that didn't. I mean, stuff like Hyjal, it's all lol. I don't care. Like, oh, look, it's Hyjal, there'll be quest hubs, stuff will happen, you will interact with big lore characters. Okay, whatever. Don't care, honestly. Doesn't bring anything new to the table. Seems to be a refinement of what we saw in Wrath, which, it's not a bad thing. Wrath had really good leveling. But, honestly, I'd like to see some innovation. Now, it turns out that they brought that in the form of Vashir. I'm going to have a look. I shall provide you with a link in the show notes on cynicalbrit.com. You can also have a look at it on the website. Just go to worldofwarcraft.com, have a look at the new raid zones and the new leveling zone previews. It should be right at the top. It's called Sink into Vashir. Have a look at it. It's a very nice looking page, very nicely put together. Have a click on it and we'll talk about what is inside. It's rather mythical, magical, mystical, wonderful by the looks of it. Let's just hope that they don't screw it up. So, Vashir, it's going to be a new zone in Cataclysm. It's a level 78 to 82. So if you get really bored with leveling in Wrath, then let's face it, who wouldn't? And I don't know, I'm sorry, that's a little bit unfair, I guess. Some people might. Honestly, I'm not really a big fan of skipping onto brand new expansion content until you're level capped. I've never really run into a situation where I've had to do it because I don't roll alts. But it seems to me you should exhaust the content that's there before moving on to the rest, because otherwise you'll end up exhausting the new good stuff quicker, and that's not good. So, Vashir, it's a sunken city. It's a level 78 to 82, where players will be able to explore the depths of the Great Sea. Yes, sea, ladies and gentlemen. It's an underwater zone. Right, now things are starting to get a little bit interesting, aren't they? I asked for some innovation, and here we go. So, this thing is underwater. There are some caves that aren't, they sort of pocketed so that water isn't a factor, but the vast majority of this is underwater. Now, you're going to have new underwater travel mechanics, which include submarines. Yes, Subma-freaking-rines. Damn, that is a great idea. This is the kind of innovation I want to see. Something new, something awesome. Will we get Big Daddy suits? I'm sorry, but if we get Big Daddy suits, then I will be all over this expansion. I will buy it on the basis of that right now. Big diving suit with green things. Can I have a drill? Could I have a drill arm? There you go. Sold right there. That's all you need to do. Partner up with, what was it, 2K Marin that came up with that game? Give me a drill. Give me a big diving suit. And I will be good to go with that. So, how is underwater travel going to work, especially with the combat mechanics there? Well, we don't know. I mean, none of this has been revealed. So let's speculate. So, before I do that, I want to look at the other stuff that's in there. There's going to be 2 new 5-player dungeons, Throne of the Tides and the Abyssal Moor, as well as the first ever opportunity to explore the remains of the majestic city of Vashir. Now, there's a bunch of stupid lore here that I really don't care about, but there are a bunch of screenshots of... Oh, wow. Talk about beautiful. It's the best looking WoW screenshots I've ever seen. I mean, I knew they went crazy with the new water effects, but I didn't think they'd go this crazy. I mean, these are gorgeous! These are really imaginative. I think the nice thing about this is the ability to create an underwater setting that doesn't look like anything else that we've seen before. I mean, we've seen ruins and stuff like that, but we've never seen a fully developed underwater area. And no, what the hell do they call it? Black Fathom Deeps does not count. I mean, this looks really, really good. So, how's underwater going to work? Well, I can think of a few ways. I mean, firstly, I would think that you could take some kind of potion that would allow you to swim around, walk around. If it's all swimming, then I think that people are going to get really sick of it very fast, because the swimming mechanics in WoW are not exactly great. It's like having an entire zone where you're effectively flying, just slower. That's not good. There are submarines. Now, I don't know how these are going to work. I imagine that submarines will act as flight points amongst areas in the zone, which is fine, but that if the vast majority of it's going to be underwater, as opposed to having all of the leveling content and the questing content in caves, which, by the looks of it, it's not going to do. I mean, they said several pocketed undersea caves. Now, there's underwater travel and combat mechanics. I have certain concerns as to the idea of underwater travel and combat mechanics, and the reason being that combat mechanics sounds a little bit too much like, yes, indeed, vehicle combat to me, and we've had enough of that, thank you very much. An entire zone based on this would be really bad indeed. Now, I don't mind the ability to, say, fire the torpedoes at an enemy underwater in a submarine or whatever, but I wouldn't want that to be the majority of the content. I want to use my class, because let's be honest here, firing torpedoes for 2 or even 4 potentially levels is going to be awful. Not looking forward to that at all. But then again, I don't think that they're going to do that. I think there will be some kind of mechanic. There might be some quests which involve naval battling and that kind of thing, but I would imagine the majority of it's going to be underwater as per normal. I still don't really know how they're going to play that. I mean, I'm thinking something along the lines of kind of like magnetic space boots. Yeah? Like, perhaps you would engage something to lock yourself to the floor of the ocean and then just walk around as normal. And maybe you could jump higher, maybe it would be a low-gravity situation. And then maybe you could disengage this lock in order to swim. It does bring around a couple of interesting possibilities, the first of which is the idea of 3-dimensional questing. Now, we've seen this to a lesser degree in certain zones, particularly in Wrath. I mean, Storm Peaks would be a good example there. If you've got lots and lots of hills, lots of mountains and things like that, then the verticality of the zone comes into play. However, in reality, we've never had flying combat outside of those bombing runs and the nonsense like that, which actually was vehicle combat. We've never been able to fight properly on top of a mount, and we certainly can't do that on top of a flying mount. All of it is done on the ground. You're just using the mount to fly from one place to the other. So that makes me wonder as to whether or not they're going to develop a system that is effectively underwater flying combat. Now, as to how you would do that, well, I can think of a number of different ways, but the most obvious is that you can swim, and you can also fight, and you can also cast, and enemies can come in from all directions, and you'll have to search for things in all directions and that kind of thing. Now, potentially, that could be a rather seamless way of doing things, although if you're just going to be swimming around, then that's not really all that quick, and of course it's going to take longer to travel from place to place if you're having to deal with 3 dimensions and you're not on a flying mount. The submarines could work, but again, if you're in a submarine, there's really no possibility that you're also going to be firing your attack, your normal casting spells. And certainly if you're a warrior, I mean, what are you going to do? Open a window and poke your sword out at them? That's not going to work, is it? That's ridiculous. So anything that involves submarines has really got to be vehicle-based combat, which isn't very good. We've seen that already. It doesn't work. A lot of people have really spoken out against it. They don't like it, and outside of a gimmick, say a boss encounter or a battleground, it's a bad idea. Having an entire leveling zone based on vehicles is appalling. But, you know, I think the best thing about this, and the thing which really gives me hope for the future, is that this zone is showing a major shift in innovation. Now, the previous zone, Hyjal, you can go and have a read about that. I'll bring up the article momentarily, and I'll tell you a little bit about what they're going to be doing here. So, Mount Hyjal is an upcoming level 78 to 82 zone as well, and it's going to involve a lot of terrain phasing. We've seen that already happening with Wrath of the Lich King, but this is going to be taking that to a whole new level. Now, I don't really see this as much innovation, because this is already there. This is not like underwater combat, which is an innovation. Hyjal is... because it's using this phasing so much, I think what they're trying to do is provide a more cohesive narrative and give you the illusion that you're doing something within the world. This is the thing that I liked about phasing to begin with, but was woefully underused in Wrath of the Lich King. It's like the idea was that it was a gimmick, it was a nascent idea, a little kernel of a thought within Blizzard's mind, and they said, hey, we've got this technology, but we're not really sure what to do with it. Now, the thing that I like about Hyjal, even though it seems like it's a little bit samey, I mean, it's like, fight with the lore characters to do this, this, and this, blah, 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 blah. Right, okay, fine, cool, we've seen that before. But if you have it entirely phased, then what you can do is you can have a big, epic set of quests culminating in something really crazy at the end of the zone, and then you can leave it, and done with it, completely. Now, to me, the increased use of phasing is a response to competition from other games, and one of those, probably the only one that they've really got on their radar right now, is Star Wars The Old Republic. Now, this game effectively, from what I can tell at any rate, there's not been enough information leaked about it. They've been heavily promoting the stuff whereby you have choices, and those choices matter, and you are going through a cohesive narrative with voice acting the same way as the single-player games. That's what they evoke from that. That's the kind of thing that they've shown. Now, to me, phasing is a direct response to that. And the increased use of phasing is an obvious point and an obvious nod to Old Republic and how they plan on beating it at its own game, as it were. Because when you phase, you can do a number of things. The first of that is you can maintain an illusion that you are genuinely progressing through a zone in a way that makes sense. There has been small examples of that in Wrath, but if it's extensive, then we're talking about a gradual change in the environment. So, as to how that can change, well, there's a number of ways. I mean, the whole lore thing is that Hyjal's being attacked by Ragnaros, of all people. I'm not entirely sure how that works, honestly. I mean, we already stole his secrets. Evidently, he's come back for them and wants to burn the tree as some kind of revenge. I don't know what's going on there. But whatever the case, interacting with the major lore characters and gradually pushing back Ragnaros' forces, starting with little skirmishes, culminating in a massive battle at the end, I would hope, is a good way to tell a story. That would, if it's compelling enough, that makes leveling more interesting. Because right now, let's be completely honest, we have the Ds, yeah? We've got, see if I can even remember these, defend, deliver, discover, destroy, and drop. Those are the 5 major Ds. Those 5 Ds are how quests work. Now, you can't really vary those up all that much, honestly. What you can do is make them matter. And I mean matter beyond a piece of quest text saying, oh, this is nice. Because nothing ever changes in the old world. And I think that's what they're really looking to deal with. Use phasing in a way that makes sense and in a way that can progress the story and change the landscape so that it gives you that illusion. You'll never be able to really change the world in that way in WoW. WoW is not dynamic enough for that. We're not talking about things like EVE. I mean, even in games like EVE, where you can make a difference, you're looking at the real changes in the game happen to alliances, yeah? Huge blocks of people, power blocks within the game that change the landscape, the political landscape, the military landscape, the economic landscape. They can change it that way. That's never going to happen in WoW, you've got to accept that. So, to me, the best thing that Blizzard can do is this excessive use of phasing. And I kind of say excessive because I don't know how crazy they're going to go with it. It's good. It brings me hope because I would be interested in leveling through that content. I like RPGs. I like a story. But stuff like WoW and indeed most MMOs, they don't do it properly because their storytelling is just barely even there. You know, if I go and do a quest, I want to see a change later on. If I play Mass Effect 2, for instance, I make a decision in that affects something else later on in the game. Now, you can't really do that with WoW and have it affect everyone, but you can have it affect you. Choices. Now, I don't know whether or not this is going to be performance-based. I would imagine not. The chances are you're going to be able to beat this no matter what the cost. But I'll tell you what, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be absolutely fantastic if some of this stuff was performance-based? if the damage that was done to Hyjal was directly related to your performance. And yeah, maybe only you can see that. Maybe it's only cosmetic. Maybe it's just this bit of ground is burned where otherwise it wouldn't be. But wouldn't that make you feel like you'd actually done something worthwhile that made an impact on the world, even if it's only a charade, only an act, a mirage? I'd be cool with that. Honestly, I really would. My name is Total Biscuit. You're listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com. Be right back after the break to talk a little bit about the Blizzard battle plan, which has told us effectively nothing, but it gives us a nice chance to have a look back at what happened in Wrath of the Lich King, the successes and failures thus far. I'll play you a little bit of Nightwish because Nightwish is fantastic. This one goes by the name of the Kinslayer. Enjoy.